Hey guys, Neely here. I'm coming in today for a real simple freezer cooking hack for your Instant Pot. And actually this would work if you're just making soup on the stove as well, but I like to use it in my Instant Pot. It makes my life so much easier. Basically, it's just a soup base and it's something that's super versatile, super versatile, get it? Sorry. For any kind of soup or most kinds of soup that you make. I found that when I made all different kinds of soup, there were a lot of the ingredients that were the same in every single soup that I made. And I found that if I just throw all those things together and get them in the freezer and have, 3, 4, 5 in the freezer, I can pull out the soup base plus what other ingredients I need to make the specific soup and have a soup going and on the table really quickly. So real quick, I'll go over my ingredients and I will list all the measurements down below as well so you can find that there. I have 1 cup each of celery, onions, and carrots. I have 2 cups of broth, 2 cups of water. You can do a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of black pepper depending on how peppery you like your soups. 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Those are my basic ingredients for almost every soup I make. There could be a soup come along here or there that doesn't need one of those things, and then I just make that one from scratch if I'm making something special. But for the most part, when I make my soups, like my wild rice soup or potato with bacon soup or potato with ham soup, lots of different ones, these are my base ingredients. So I am going to go ahead and throw one together, although when I do make them, I'm usually doing, like I said, 3, 4, or 5 at a time. So I have my containers. These work really great. I have a 6-quart Instant Pot. So if you have a 8-quart, you probably will be able to use larger containers. But I have a 6-quart, so I use containers like this. It's just, you just need to make sure that the diameter of the circle that you're freezing in is small enough to fit inside your Instant Pot. These ones work as well. This is a Rubbermaid tag-along round one, 6.2 cups. And then this is a Glad, what is it? 6-cup container. And these work really great for my soup bases, and they're easy to pop out. I usually will freeze the soup base in these, and then once they're frozen solid, if I need the containers, I can just pop the frozen soup base out by running a little water around the bottom, and I'll show you that when the time comes. And then I'm able to just stick that soup base into a Ziploc bag, and I have my containers, and I can throw the Ziploc bag back into the freezer if I'm not ready to use the soup base at that point. So now I'm going to go ahead and put one together for you real quick. All right, this is exceedingly simple and very easy to throw together. And like I said, I usually have, 4 or 5 sitting here, and I don't measure. If you get the measurements a little bit off, it's not a big deal. Usually I will pull out, celery and carrots and onions that I need to get used up. Like if I've had them sitting in the fridge for a few days and I just don't want them to go bad, I'll chop them all up and then divide it evenly among the containers. So you don't have to worry about these measurements too much. I just gave them as an idea. So first of all, I'm going to add my veggies. One thing when you're freezing raw vegetables, you want to make sure that they are covered with liquid. There are only a few vegetables that you can freeze without cooking them first or blanching them first. And so if you are freezing veggies that you want to keep raw, you don't want to take the time to blanch them, you have to make sure that they are covered completely in liquid. So I'm going to put those on the bottom. It's just 1 cup each of the carrots, celery, and the onion. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my spices. I'm doing 2 teaspoons of salt. And of course, all of this can be adjusted to your taste. If you try this and you think it needs more salt or less, you can always add it at the end of your cooking time. You can, of course, taste your soup before you serve it and add more seasoning as needed, or you can kind of adjust this recipe as you like. I'm doing half a teaspoon of black pepper, and you can do up to a teaspoon if you like lots of black pepper flavor. And then a teaspoon of the garlic powder and a teaspoon of onion powder. So now the last thing I'm going to do is just pour in the liquid, 2 cups of broth and 2 cups of water. Although if you want to do all broth, that's totally fine. Sometimes I won't have quite enough broth to do 2 whole cups per soup base, so I'll do a cup of broth plus 3 cups of water. It's really up to you. And it should be just enough to get this full and leave about 1 inch of headroom here at the top. And I'm just going to pop this lid on and stick it in the freezer and wait until it is frozen solid. Now real quick, I wanted to give you a few ideas of how you might use your soup base. If you are used to just throwing things together and cooking from scratch, you probably already have an idea of how you would use your soup base. And this is the kind of thing where if you're not used to cooking from scratch and throwing things together, it may take a little while for you to get used to. But once you get to the place where you are comfortable with that, the possibilities are endless. So a few things that I like to do, I already mentioned the wild rice soup, and I have shown that on lots of different freezer cooking videos before. I will freeze cooked wild rice in quart Ziploc bags like this, and then I will also freeze potatoes. These are cooked potatoes that I cooked in my Instant Pot, and I put them in this quart bag, and the quart bags are nice because you can run some water on them, and then you kind of have to cut the bag and peel it away, and then this block of potatoes will fit in your Instant Pot. So when I do the wild rice soup, I will put my base in, and I will let that sit on saute mode for a little while to let the broth melt, because it is kind of hard with the 6-quart pot to fit all of these pieces in there while they're all still frozen. And they do come up to pressure a lot easier if you let the soup base melt for a little while before you start the pressure cooking program. But once you get the soup base to melt, you can add the potatoes and the wild rice, and then a pack of chicken thighs. Again, I freeze these in the quart bags because I can just peel the bag right off and throw this right into the Instant Pot when I am ready to cook. Also, if you're doing any kind of a bean recipe, you can, of course, you probably cook your beans in your Instant Pot if you have an Instant Pot, and that's what I do. I cook big batches and then I freeze them into quart bags. Again, easy enough to peel the bag off and throw into the melted soup base. And then this is what I'm going to be using coming up real soon. I'm going to be doing a potato and ham soup, and I am freezing my ham cubes in this nice round container so that I can just pop it out of there once it's frozen and put it in my Instant Pot with the soup base and with the potatoes, and that can cook and make a really nice soup. And then there are a few ingredients that I add at the end. If you do any kind of thickener or something to make it creamy, like heavy cream or coconut milk, that's something you're going to add at the end. I'm not trying to give recipes for these different soups. I'm just trying to give you ideas of how you can use the soup base. And you probably, if you do cook from scratch, you probably already have ideas of soups that you already make that you could use a soup base for to make it easier on yourself. The other great thing about these soup bases is that when I have stuff in the fridge that needs to get used up, oftentimes I'll have a little bit of meat left over, like some ham that needs to be used up, something like that. I can just pull a soup base out, put it in my Instant Pot, throw in whatever veggies and meat and stuff that's left. If we have leftover baked potatoes that have been sitting in the fridge for a while, I can chop those up, throw them all in with the soup base, turn on the Instant Pot, let it do its thing, and I have a nice, delicious soup. So that is it for my soup base recipe. If you want to stick around, I am going to be making a potato and ham soup with the soup base I just stuck in the freezer. So I'll probably be making it tomorrow and showing you exactly how I cook it. When you do cook it, you have to kind of know your Instant Pot a little bit and figure out how long to cook. That's one of the things that you just kind of get the feel for after you use the Instant Pot for a while. Like I said, this is not a recipe video that's going to give you exacts. It's just to give you ideas to take some shortcuts in cooking with the Instant Pot. So I will be back in a minute to make this ham and potato soup. It is the next day now, and this is frozen solid, and I'm gonna run some water on the outside of this container real quick, and then the soup base will pop right out. The first thing I'm gonna do though is get my Instant Pot plugged in, and I'm gonna turn it on saute mode, and I'm gonna press the adjust button to get to the more setting so that it's as hot as possible. I just wanna get this started to defrost so that I can actually fit all of the other ingredients in. So after running a little water around the bottom of this, it just pops right out, and I'm gonna just stick it right down here like that, and I'm gonna let it sit there on saute mode for a few minutes until it starts to melt and I get some good liquid in the bottom. While that is going, I grabbed my other ingredients out of the freezer. I have about 3 pounds of cooked and chopped frozen potatoes here. And then I have about maybe a little over a pound of diced ham. And I froze this into a round shape. And I'm just gonna go ahead and set this right on here because it might as well start getting warm and defrosted while the soup base melts. So I'm gonna leave it sit for, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. And once it's melted enough to fit in the potatoes, I can start the pressure cooking. It's been about 15 minutes now, and the soup base is a little more than halfway melted, and this ham is ready to be crumbled up here. So I think I'll be able to fit in my potatoes. I'm just gonna try to get these potatoes in here. I just kind of ripped the bag open and slide on in. So now the cook time, and this is something that you'll just kind of get a feel for as you make things. You may need to do some trial and error and do some recipes where you put it on for a certain amount of time, realize it wasn't cooked quite enough, add a few minutes, and after you do that a few times and do different recipes with different ingredients, you kind of get a feel for how long things will take. But then when you're playing with frozen stuff, it just adds another thing into the mix that makes it a little bit difficult to figure out timing for. If all of the ingredients were defrosted that I'm putting in here, I would probably only cook it for maybe 3 or 4 minutes because the potatoes are already cooked, the ham is already cooked, the veggies in the soup base, they're not cooked, but they cook super, super fast. So there's no need to cook it for a really long amount of time because you don't want stuff to turn to mush. But then I have the soup base that's a little bit frozen still, and then I have these big chunks of potatoes here that are still frozen. So I am going to cook this for 12 minutes and I will check it. I expect that'll be enough time, but I will check it and see if I need to add any more. So if everything was defrosted, around 3 or 4 minutes. With the frozen chunks in there, going to go for 12 minutes and we'll see how it goes. So I am going to lock my lid, make sure it is on sealing, and I am going to cancel the saute mode that was on. And now I am going to put it on manual for 12 minutes. And I'll let it do its thing. When it finishes, I will let the pressure come down naturally for at least 5 minutes. But I'll kind of come back to it whenever I get a chance. But at least 5 minutes, I'll let the pressure come down naturally. And then I will add the last couple ingredients. All right, cook time finished, and it's been sitting on keep warm mode for 18 minutes. There's still a little bit of pressure left, so I'm going to go ahead and release that. All right, so let's open this up and see what we have here. Yep, I think that was plenty enough time to get it all cooked. Now I'm going to add the last few ingredients, and that is a thickener and something to make it creamy. I always like to use sweet potato flour for my thickener, but you can also use arrowroot flour or cornstarch or just regular flour, whatever thickener you prefer using. I'm doing 2 tablespoons of that. I may add another tablespoon if it's not enough, but I think it probably will be. And then I have about a cup of full fat coconut milk. And again, you can use your preference of whatever you like to make. Used to make it creamy. You can do half and half or heavy whipping cream or just regular milk, or you can even use almond milk if you want a lower fat thing. I prefer full fat coconut milk. So I'm just going to add my thickener into the coconut milk here and get it whisked up. All right, I'm just going to pour this in here and stir it as I go. And at this point you can taste it and see what else it needs. It's still on keep warm mode, so I'm just going to let it sit on keep warm for a couple of minutes just to let that thickening do its thing in here. But it's pretty much ready to eat at this point. You can taste it and add any ingredients, any spices that you feel like it needs. If it needs more salt or pepper or some thyme or anything like that. I like to do a little pinch of red pepper flakes in potato soups. It's also very good. So that is it for my creamy ham and potato soup in the Instant Pot using my soup base. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I will be doing more soup base videos, like recipes that go along with the soup bases. coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. I hope you found this helpful, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye, guys.